Hi, my name is Alexander Stroh. I'm a political scientist, and the project I'm here for and I'm co-directing is a truly interdisciplinary exercise. So that's why I'm not alone in this video.
I'm Diana Chisache, a doctoral researcher in political science with the Africa Multiple Cluster of Excellence.
My name is Raymond Frimpong. I'm a development economist. I am a member of the cluster and also a postdoc in our projects.
I'm working with the project Multiplicity in Decision-Making of Africa's Interacting Markets, also known as MuDAIMa. The project works with three disciplinary angles. One is the economics angle, which looks at the role of market participants. The political scientists are interested in the power of regional judges, whereas the legal scholars deal with the functioning of community law. The project was envisioned to last for 4 years. However, due to disruptions brought on by the COVID pandemic, innovative solutions will be necessary.
The common joint interest of the MuDAIMa project is in regional integration processes in Africa. We are interested in various actors at various levels of regional integration processes who co-shape the regional economic community sanctioned by the AU. So we inquire into the reasons and conditions for why governments cede or delegate powers to that regional level. We are also interested in why citizens and politicians at the national level would support or obstruct regional integration. We are also interested in the legal mechanisms that relate the partners in regional integration in order to find remedy in case of conflict. And not last, we are interested in how individual and collective actors at the regional level actually motivate themselves in order to follow up and carry on with often cumbersome and difficult processes. So a comparative view at several entities such as COMESA, EAC and SADC will help us to answer these questions. As we said earlier, the MuDAIMa project is a truly interdisciplinary endeavor. However, it builds and benefits from earlier cooperation, in particular from legal scholars in Bayreuth with East African colleagues. And these projects have focused on a legal perspective on the East African community. However, they, from the very beginning, included other disciplinary perspectives. So we use this nucleus of cooperation to build our interdisciplinary cooperation with economists, political scientists, and legal scholars in order to investigate questions of regional integration also beyond the EAC. And we are convinced that this interdisciplinary collaboration can produce new insights in regional integration, if not only we join forces, but if we also use the unique Africa multiple environment in order to dissolve the barriers between European and African researchers.
So as a group, we intend to use both quantitative and qualitative methods. However, for us in economics, this means that we'll be using more than appropriate econometric models that will help us identify the effects that we are interested in. This also means that we'll be collecting primary and secondary data from different sources, including the Afrobarometer dataset and living standard measurements surveys from different countries. Of course, we also intend to conduct lab experiments to understand the various decision-making processes in regional integration in Africa. Yes, we do have preliminary results from a project that we seek to understand what drives people's support for regional integration. And in this project, we use the Afrobarometer dataset and the Bayesian model averaging to understand the various variables and their respective importance in explaining support for regional integration. So here we find that people who have trust in their national government also tend to be supportive of regional integration. And we also find that nomadic people or people from nomadic backgrounds tend to be supportive of regional integration. And this we think is because regional integration presents them with an opportunity to move their animals around in a way that will not bring confrontations and restrictions that we normally see in the news. However, we also realize that people with strong ethnic affinity, that is people who prefer their ethnic identity to their national identity, tend to be less supportive of regional integration. And as I indicated, these are preliminary results, so we are still working to understand what drives these observations.
The political science team is grappling with classifying and identifying patterns of judicial appointments to African regional court benches. Some preliminary findings indicate that there is much variance in judicial career trajectories across these courts. To explain these variations, we account for the multiple relations that judges have to their appointers and at various levels of governance, and inquire into what their personal and collective experiences could reveal about these rarely known decision makers. Our initial findings illustrate that scholarly debates emerging from the West that argue in favor of states using appointments to signal credible commitment to regional integration is not as clear-cut in the African context. Additionally, we find that contrary to commonly held assumptions about regime types and their influence on choice of judges, that people may expect less democratic institutions to send more politically tied judges, our sample indicates otherwise. We find that more career judges actually emerge out of these so-called hybrid regimes. Of course, these are still initial findings emerging from our preliminary research before we go into the field. So we hope to confirm or dispute this widely held views of democratic influence on judicial appointments to international courts further along in our research.
Regional integration is per se a strong expression of relationality. From an Africa multiple perspective, we call these relations public affiliations in order to emphasize that we want to move from entities to the ties between these entities in order to better understand regional integration processes. So the project is designed to uncover the less obvious and not so much the structural parts of regional integration. In a nutshell, we could even say that multiplicity of regional integration is our core interest. This reminds us, but also goes beyond well-established concepts of multi-level governance. These concepts have primarily focused on the building blocks of order in complex political arenas. However, we want to focus on the relations between these building blocks and try to understand complex regional integration processes better by focusing on relations and webs of influence that might be reinvented, negotiated, deliberately destroyed, in informal, or even in unconscious processes. In order to get hold of this complexity, we start with the more selective angles that we have presented earlier. And after that, we will try to bring everything together to make and generate more general statements.
At this point, I think it's fair for me to say I'm very happy with the cluster so far. And as a development economics, I am particularly happy with the interdisciplinary atmosphere of the cluster and the knowledge lab settings, because it helps one to appreciate development issues from different perspectives and different backgrounds. Now, with respect to my research, I think I would be happy to see findings from various studies inform decisions and discussions on regional integration in Africa. And of course, I'll be much more happier to see future research in the cluster base their studies on the findings from our projects. Thank you.
Well, my primary goal would be to write a meaningful and constructive PhD that speaks to the cluster themes, and additionally, I'd like to make valuable contributions to an already strong team that I'm a part of.